Good morning. Today is Monday, August 26th, and I'm live here. It's early morning, 6:30 a.m. I'm up early. And I'm talking about love, friendships, dating, and astrology because I have learned so much about this about these dynamics through life and through astrology. And um, what I really would like to share, the gist of it is the uh, the support that astrology has given me as well as many other people in confirming of the acceptance of breakups, the acceptance of separations, the acceptance of life in general. And I think a lot of people learn this through without astrology. They just make up things, and this is why, this is life. They might even say like this is life, but for me, I needed more than that. I needed more proof, for lack of a better word, uh, and I needed more explanation. Really, that's what it is. I need more explanation as to why things happen and why things are the way they are in general. So that's what astrology has done for me. That's what I'm talking about in this video. And I'll start with just the idea or the concept. Start with the concept of relationships, friendships, and what I've seen. Actually, this includes all relationships. What I've seen is through astrology is that if a person if a person does if the relationship, or you the friend, the lover, uh, spouse, um, relatives is a big one. If you do not if you get in the way of that person's life path, they will they will separate from you. At worst, they'll separate from you, and at best, they'll fight you. And we see this a lot with relatives. Uh, a specific story of mine. I have a godmother, and she is a sun in Aquarius, moon in Capricorn. And when I started, she's a Catholic person, but I wouldn't consider her the greatest of all Catholics. She's a typical Catholic woman. She's up in age, and when I expressed contra, uh, conflict, or when I expressed dissent towards Catholicism, uh, that was it. It was over. The relationship was never the same. Never the same. And I had many conversations with this person, and there's many people in her family who she has a lot of problems with, who also expressed dissent when it came to Catholicism, but not so much in deliberate dissent. More so like they're not going to church on Sunday. They're going to different churches because of their spouse, things like that. So still not claiming anything against the religion, just being different, or not, kind of like acting like a child doesn't want to go to church, that kind of thing. That has definitely caused major problems with the relationship, but never separation. But we're also talking about sons and daughters and grandkids. Now, with me, I'm a distant cousin. She was my godmother. And as I said, it wasn't just not going to church, it was deliberate discussion about what Catholicism or what Christianity is. And from that day forward, The relationship was never the same. This person refuses to call me. Has not called me once. There's way more to the story. It's much worse than I'm actually making it out to be. Has not called me once, and I've actually called this person several times and expressed to them what I think is going on, and in an emotional way, how I feel about this. And the spirit, I call it the spirit of the person remains, remains, uh, remains in separation. I'm not very good with my words right here, but they refuse to concede, and that's how strong the spirit can be when you're dealing with these things. If you're talking about, for example, if this person, uh, if I was talking about maybe something that wasn't that important, like a television show, and I was saying how I don't like this television show, or I don't like this actor, actress. It's maybe not as severe, although it can cause some problems. We think of politics. If I'm a Republican and they're a Democrat, and coming around election time, this can cause some problems. But maybe not uh, separation, because we're not really getting into assaulting their life path. Now, if you start talking about, if you are a Democrat and they're a Republican, and you start assaulting or coming at their life choice, let's say the general conservative versus liberal, right? So if you're a liberal, let's say you're a liberal person, you're very considered very liberal, and how that plays out is that um, you dress a certain way, you have a particular job, you have a particular sexual orientation, and then vice versa. If you're super conservative, and that plays out as you having a lot of money, having a very stable living circumstance, and living a very conservative life, in that sense, old fashioned, etc. If it plays out in one person attacking that, as opposed to just the idea of being conservative or liberal, then there will definitely be separation. The same thing will happen. The spirit will kick and scream and fight. And now I think in many cases, when we're talking about relatives, especially father, mother, son, daughter, uh, it's a lot less likely that there will be a full-on separation. But as you go down the family tree, get into cousins, friends, lovers that aren't mother, daughter, etc., like that close, the separation is very much guaranteed, very much guaranteed. And what I'm getting, how this relates to astrology is, in astrology we can see a person's life path. We can look at what they're saying, look at their life. We can look at their astrology. Like, for example, the sun in Aquarius, the godmother, the sun in Aquarius. I'm not going to get into the whole chart, but just looking at the sun in Aquarius, very fixed. You see the very fixed opinion, uh, versus, let's say, if it was a sun in Pisces. Just alone, based on that alone, I'm not saying a sun in Pisces can't act like that either. But if it was a sun in Pisces, they may have more flexibility. They may have more understanding. They may have more, uh, or be less rigid about that subject. So I'll be right back here. So grab some coffee. Now that's just one example of the many that I have. I'll give you another example. This can be for work relationships too. A lot of people, I don't think they realize what's going on. And I will say this as a uh, bit of caution. I personally, I don't use this to defend myself in these situations. And this next example uh, be a good example of that. Meaning, if a person's acting this way, I don't bring up more often than not. I won't bring up what they're doing because it will never work. I mean, I have in the past. It usually doesn't work. So this particular person, I was working with her, and she, she was into astrology, and we were talking about it. She was in her mind, she was going through a very tough situation, not doing very well. And we came to the conclusion that she needed to be on her own. She had a child, and I'm not going to get into any of that, but she had a child, and she needed to have her own place. She had just broken up with the guy, etc., for somewhat recently, and she needed to have, or a conclusion was she needed to have her own place because she had a good enough job, etc. And that was it. She needed to take care of herself and not be really concerned with anyone else. But she didn't do that in real life. In real life, this person had uh, very good luck, which like very good fortune around men taking care of her, and that was her crutch. So basically, what this person could do was, even though she had the means to take care of herself, at any given time, she could find a man to take care of her, meaning give her a place to stay and give her money if she wanted to, but at the very least, give her a place to stay, a very nice place to stay. So, men lining up at any given time, you can stay at my place. Boyfriends, you get into a relationship within a week, 2 weeks, you can stay at my place and I'll give you whatever you want. This is what she had, and this was in her astrology, South Node in the eighth. I forget what the sign was, but it was South Node in the eighth. And this was her, as I use the word, crutch. And me being the astrologer and trying to help people and making this evaluation, I mean, I can make this evaluation without the astrology. With the astrology, it just makes it, just confirms it even more. So what ended up happening is multiple times, I call this person's spirit, but multiple times, this person's spirit was attacking me. Uh, and it made no sense whatsoever. Like in the reality of it, it made no sense. And in the end, we ended up separating. I ended up having to quit. I ended up having to leave because I couldn't take it anymore. You couldn't make sense out of it. You couldn't have conversation. You couldn't have a meeting. It was almost like everyone was involved in it as well. So that's how powerful a person's life path spirit can be if you infiltrate that and get in the way of that those I mean get in the way of those dynamics. So in a sense, it's like God or the universe is not going to allow is not going to allow you to just come through and destroy the the web of it all, which comes back to my main topic here, love and relationships, and why you can't just, relationships, when they say people, like when people are amending relationships, fixing relationships, I don't actually think that they're really fixing. If when it comes to these things, they're not actually fixing relationships. What they're doing is ignoring. They're going into a state of ignoring, ignorance, letting it go. We're not going to talk about that anymore. So in my case, with the person at the job, typically what you would do is you wouldn't talk about these things at work. Now, the place I was working was, you can have a lot of conversation, and it was hard not to have conversation. It wasn't very busy. You get to know these people, you like them, they like you, become friends, etc. But that's one reason why you don't do that. And at work, you just have superficial conversations. In fact, what most people want is to have superficial conversations in all areas of life. Because if you do that, you typically can't go wrong because uh, you're not preventing someone from living out their life path. And they also, in psychological terms, you see this as uh, people, everyone knows people like this, like not wanting to give up their bullshit. And you maintain that relationship. You just kind of, you're aware of it and you let them go as much as you can. You let them go. And with love, dating, love, this can be, I mean, this is a major problem. I mean, I think just in dating alone, because there's so many people that are really good at this, and they're really good at maintaining lots of different relationships. If they're really good at it, like if it's in their natal chart, it's even worse. So you could go on a date with someone or be dating someone for a long period of time, and they could be totally faking the whole thing. They can not so much just like all out faking, but they can be having thoughts and they're never telling you their thoughts. So they're not pushing those buttons. Uh, and they're doing that. They might not be doing it consciously, but astrologically, they're doing that because they don't want to go into that space that I'm talking about. They don't want to go into that space where you have to change. You've heard that as well. People don't like to change. And it's way deeper than they don't want. Their spirit will fight you on the change. And uh, they have and even you can think of you can think of this as being good or bad or like but a lot of these things people have a right to. This isn't uncommon. Being someone who sleeps around, this isn't a crime. Okay, this is an actual archetype. This is like an archetypal thing. Someone who relates to a lot of different people and gets along with everyone. This is not a crime. Being a person who wants to inflate their bank account, wants to inflate their social status to a nth degree. This is not a crime. To not know oneself, to not truly know oneself, this is not a crime. So these things, people are, you could say, getting away with them, will be able to get away with this forever and ever and ever. I think of the examples I gave my godmother. Would it be nice if she would just be able to have a conversation, talk about these things, not ignore them? It's never going to happen. But this isn't a crime. The other person who they even when they come to the conclusion that this is what they are, this is a problem. They still, the spirit at the end of the day, if it's not ready to move forward, or there could be some other reason why it's not moving forward or changing, then the words don't matter, is what I'm saying. Words do not matter. Actions matter. So they could be saying the right things. Friendships. I've had friendships. I have a couple different examples. I have the friends that will uh, allow someone like me to openly talk about will allow someone like me to openly talk about things that contradict their lifestyle. They'll allow it, they'll listen, and they won't let it bother them. And then I have the friends who, if you talk or say anything that contradicts their lifestyle, their eyes will get big. They'll say, "You're talking about me. You're talking about me." And if it continues, then the spirit will begin to find ways. What I've noticed will begin to find ways to get in arguments with you and then eventually separate. And of course, we're talking about long-term friends. If we're talking about short term, if we're talking about someone you just met, inevitable separation, you'll never talk to them again, more likely than not. If we're talking about long-term friends, people that perceive you as family. As I said, the one person, a couple people I'm thinking of, uh, they will allow you to. I think for that reason, they'll allow you to talk like this, and their spirit will just kind of ignore. It's like they have a stronger. It's almost like people who have more of a stronger spirit, and they're more uh, like they don't take offense. Be like the person if let's say I was only interested in my social status, etc. Someone kind of made me aware of that, and I was really showing that, uh, and that I would just kind of acknowledge it and say, okay, yeah, that's true. That's I would admit that it's true, and I would not feel guilty for it. Really, it's the ones that feel guilty, but I would admit that it's true, not feel guilty about it, and move on. Like you're just stating the obvious. It doesn't bother me. Like that, uh, you're okay with your the faults that they're which might not even really be false, but they're bringing up that these things you're okay with it, so it doesn't bother you. There wouldn't be a separation there. But yeah, I've seen the example. What I'm talking about, hopefully, it's coming through. I've seen it in friendships. I've seen it with relatives, and maybe that's what it comes down to. It comes down to the ability to look at the self and not feel guilty, not feel shame. Yeah, I've seen it with relatives. I've seen it with friends. I've seen it with in dating and romantic relationships. And there's like the two, not to put it so black and white. There's two different types of people. There's the ones that are okay with it, that it doesn't bother, and then there's the ones that the spirit will eventually run. And we can see this in the astrology. I mean, there's people that come to astrology reading, come for astrology readings, and they want to know certain things. And usually, when they're being told something that goes, when they're being told things that are in line with what they already thought, then it's a good outcome. Versus when they're being told not so much things that are just against what they thought, but having to make some kind of adjustment in their thinking or may change what they thought things were, then usually the astrology session doesn't go so well. And usually these people are the ones, they're definitely from an astrological standpoint, from what I've seen, they're the ones that will not get on it. They will not, they just want the information. They don't want to discuss. They don't want to discuss this. They just want you to tell them what the astrology says, which it really doesn't work like that. It's not supposed to work like that, but many people do it. And that's what a lot of people want. They just want, they're fishing for answers. We're all just fishing for things to justify what we think. And the world is so big and vast that you're always going to be able to find something to justify what you think. Because there's many people, if you think about the astrological standpoint, there's many people who are just like you. There's always going to be people just like you. Always. There's always going to be people that want you to be around them. They're going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to tell you what you want to think to keep you around. To keep you around. Try to think of some other examples. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there for now. We didn't really have anyone pop in the chat. No one really interested in this morning, although it is Monday, 7 a.m. If you're watching this on replay, I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll try to respond. And I hope you have a great week.